Welcome back to Speak Pact. Today I have Cate Stillman in the house. She is a top 2% podcaster and so much more. And just to give you a little insight into how to reach into what it means to be a top 2% podcaster, there are over 5.5 million podcasts throughout the globe. She has reached the top 2% in terms of listenership and her ranking. So that is no small feat. But what's even more incredible is she reached that during a journey of her own in overcoming chronic inflammation and some other situations. So what one of the things that we're going to dive into today is how to succeed in the face of what others might utilize as excuses, right? Adversity, things that might have otherwise slow you down or trip you up. She did not take no for an answer, and she went for it anyway. And now she devotes herself to helping others do the same. She's predominantly known in the well-being space, but her knowledge really transcends to any of us who want to get our bigger voice out there, to get our bigger work out there. I know, Cate, that you are the founder and the CEO of several different companies. One is Club Thrive. I think that is the work that you do straight to the actual consumer. And then you have Well Pro Academy, as well as the Well Pro Academy podcast, which is B2B. And then your other podcast is Thrive with Cate. There's just got a lot going on. Tell us how you keep up your energy and utilize some of the things that you went through as a catalyst instead of a big excuse to not succeed. Nobody would have blamed you, right?
Yeah. I mean, to me, I've really I came to business from a place of purpose. So, vision, mission, purpose, that's always been my modus operandi. And so for me, like, that's where the energy comes from is it's not like, oh, I've got to go to work today. It's like, I'm excited to do whatever the strategic projects we're working on, are, whether it's as an individual or as a team. I love my own focus blocks of time to create. I've always been a content creator, like really since I started in business in 2001. And so the actual, like, the mission and vision hasn't changed that much. It's just like the marketplace changes. And that's where I find the most adaptability is needed. And I think also for many of us who've been in business for a long time, especially in the online or the digital space, is it changes rapidly, and that can be at times frustrating, and at times really rewarding.
I love the way that you said that because that actually translates incredibly into the speaking and corporate training world as well. Your mission and your vision pretty much remains steady, but the marketplace doesn't always. So to stay relevant and to stay effective, you really need to stay in touch with what's going on with the mood of the world, the mood of your audience. What are some of the ways that you do that? How do you stay in touch with the ebbs and flows and ups and downs of who those you serve are going through?
Yeah, I'm just a fierce believer in having strong contact with your clientele, like, just through, like, they're real people in real time paying me money for me to help them. So what are their emerging needs? What are their changing needs? I've seen so much in the past decade in particular, because when you're in business for multiple decades, you can measure certain things in terms of what happened in the last one. And to me, like, in the last decade, attention changed so dramatically, but the results didn't change. So how we help our members in wellness, and like whether it's in Club Thrive or in Wellness Pro Academy. In Club Thrive, we help people with, like, what are their multidimensional life goals? Because everyone has a body, everyone's involved with money and finance and investment, right? And then we all have friends, community, connection, relationship. We all have aging parents, and hopefully we're tied to the next generation in some way, shape, or form. So we all have these multi-dimensional life goals. So how we use our attention is changing and continues to change, I would say, exponentially, dramatically. But the results that we get around strategic life design and multidimensional life goals and being in peak performance in our body, like that doesn't change.
Okay, love, love, love. So essentially, what I heard, tell me if I'm tracking right. You ask, basically, you ask and you listen because there's no good in asking if you're not going to shut up and listen, right? So you do that, and then you meet them where they are when you can to stay relevant. That's what I'm gathering. Is that am I am I
I would
tracking?
say I would say more than me asking, it's like they complain. You know, I'm
Then you're
like, there's like
listening.
truth to be told, you know, it's like people love to complain. Like we really love to complain. We've tried to run like 30-day complain free challenges. It's so hard. So when people complain, there's obviously a need that's not being met or it's not being met effectively. And so to some degree, we find complaining just happens because people don't want to do the work that's required to get the result. In which case I look at like fast, fun, effective, like I call it fast, fun, effective, my three F's, even though I know effective doesn't begin with an F, but right. So how can we make it more fun if it's hard? So for example, in Club Thrive, we do adversity habits. Like the name of the game in health, focus, and purpose is adversity habits. Like doing hard things is the most rewarding, like hard things that lead to the end result. That is the most rewarding. So doing those things together is huge. Making them easy enough to get started is huge. And then just having an idea of like, how much do we have to do the thing to get the result that we want? And just knowing what that is. Because often it's, with great focus, it's not that much time. So once we minimize the time, people can bear to do the things that maybe they don't know how to do yet and are challenging just because of they don't know how to do them yet. Or they just need to do them with us. And that's usually the fun part is like doing it together is way easier, and then doing it together makes like the actual habit itself is effective, so we don't have to worry about the efficacy as long as it's fast and fun.
This aligns so well with something I face pretty often, and I hate to simplify it down to this term, but it kind of at the end of the day, it's true for success on any level. No pain, no gain, right? You can't just want the prize without paying the cost. And there is a cost, not only to our own physical well-being, mental, spiritual well-being. Sometimes it's letting go of a really important relationship in our life, or you have to make those hard choices. But then in success to it, we don't always want to do the grunt work that it takes for the success. We just want the success part, and I see that in the speaking industry so much, right? They just want to get some silver bullet, they want to get a TEDx stage, or uh, a, a rock star agent, or whatever it is. But those seasoned and top 2% speakers, they know that's not enough. You always have to have that outward grind if you're going to stay relevant, stay booked, all the things. And if you want that success, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a little pain. So I don't see really any area of life that if you're going to grow and expand, that you're not going to feel some discomfort. So how did you embrace your discomfort and turn it from, because inflammation's a, I know you had to be in a ton of pain and not given a lot of hope along the way. How
Mm,
did you embrace all of that and decide, I'm going to every single day I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and move forward instead of standing still?
mm. I mean, maybe it's, I guess maybe it's different for me. Like it doesn't feel, my challenge is not doing the work. Like my challenge is stopping doing the work, right? Like my
That's
challenge
more
is like,
painful to you. It's just like not moving. Is that what
yeah,
you're
if I
saying?
like can't get to doing the work, like that to me is more painful. It just brings me back to like, and it might be personality, it might be like my trauma pattern is to like actually grind. So for me, like the grind isn't hard. Like grinding, whether it's like grinding like my mountain bike up a mountain or doing a cold plunge or just, learning a new app, like that part, that to me isn't hard. And I find for like most entrepreneurs, and I think we have, I think I'm curious about like the trauma patterns of entrepreneurs and CEOs and people who uh, are willing to, I mean, if we look at the word entrepreneur, right, it's like someone who's willing to take risk, right? So some of us are just wired. right? To be like, we don't want somebody else's like 9 to 5 and 401k package. Like to us, that would be a death sentence. So I think for, for a lot of people who might be running their own show, whether it's in wellness or whether it's, and by show I mean like your own game, like your own business, whether it's in wellness or whether it's in another vertical, uh, it's like often for us it's determining, like the hard part is like determining where to point the arrow, like just realizing that we only have so much time. So even when I found out I had cancer. So the mysterious disease we're talking about here is I found I had a very high likelihood of having cancer due to a genetic precondition that I've been aware of for 20 years, but it still caught me off guard because I I was the yoga healer for 20 years, right? So it's like the whole time I'm like leading somewhat like peak performance diet and lifestyle. Uh, in whether or not it was like a turbo tumor due to vaccine exposure. There's a lot of things that I wrote about in Witch's Cancer Journal that are somewhat undetermined. But I didn't find out I had cancer until after the tumor was removed from my body, and then it was tested. And because of my background and because of this genetic condition, I'd seen a lot of my I'd seen people die of chemotherapy and other people live who didn't choose chemotherapy. So I knew, and I'd done a lot of research on, at that point I started doing a lot of research on radiation, et cetera. So I decided to not do radiation and to not do chemotherapy and just to read all the alternative therapy cancer books, learn more, do what I was going to do, be grounded in my own path. But I never actually stopped working. Like I added 2 new brands and product stacks actually like during the month of having the
Wow.
tumor. Yeah. So to me, it's never been a like, oh, where am I getting the energy to like get up? Like I've never had fatigue. Like I've never had, like, even through cancer, I didn't have low energy or low drive, and I really do attribute a lot of that to just like, this is just who I am. And then some of it to my habit stack. Uh, that like that is really working for me. So people who have that issue of ambition, I would go back to like, do you really know what you want?
Yeah.
Because if you really know what you want, like that's what drives you to take the hard action. If you understand what you want and you know the strategy, like you've really, and we do a lot of strategy work in Club Thrive. I'd say we do 2 big things in Club Thrive. Like one is peak performance habits, right? That are very body mind centric. And then the other is actual like strategy. Like, do you know how to run strategy? Because you can do all the planning you want, but if you don't have a good strategy, like the plan doesn't matter.
I love that you said that, Kate. And we're sisters as far as our how we deal with trauma and crazy stuff. I hit the ground running. I put my head down. I just do the thing. Right when my mama died, that's what I did. All of a sudden, my career exploded because I'd kind of dialed it back while caring for her, and the pain of losing her. All of a sudden, my career explodes. So I think that some of it might be just a personality pattern, but you hit the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned when you talked about know what you want. I'm going to take it one step
Mm.
beyond that.
Yeah.
And to me it's kind of a two-parter. It's yeah, know what you want, but also know what you want to be and who you want to help. So that's the
Yeah.
driver for me. I
Yeah.
know I don't want to be the person who did not realize the potential that I had in this very short-lived life. I mean, in the scheme of things, we're only here for a very short amount of time, even in the best case of scenarios. And the only thing I feel like we leave behind is who we touched. Like that,
Yeah.
who
Totally.
did we make a difference for?
Yeah.
And you knowing that does transcend all the hiccups because there's going to be hiccups all along the way. It's doesn't, new levels, new devils, right? You get to a new peak and there's a whole new set of challenges. You get to
Yeah.
that and just the challenges evolve right along with you. I think we're always waiting for that time when everything's going to go right. I don't think it ever does. I don't think that's how it's designed.
Yeah. Well, and we're not like, we as in primates, we as in Homo sapiens, like we are not designed that way. Like human evolution is driven by adversity habits. There's a hard stop on that in terms of any type of research. Like it doesn't matter if you're looking at our ability to fast, our ability to have thermogenesis or like be in hot and cold climates, like our ability to focus in a fasted state, our ability to commune and do things together as a group. Like these things are hard to do, and those who do that well evolve, and they get to live and they get to pass their genes forward. So there's a lot of, I find so many more people have awareness of the word entropy than enthalpy. So entropy is like the natural degradation over time, right? Enthalpy is actually the preservation and the upcycling of the intelligence over time. So if we look at the genetic code, it's like those who have embraced the most adversity habits or doing the hard thing in the short term that leads to the goal in the long term win, and they pass their genetic code forward.
Okay, so do the hard thing in the short term to enjoy the success in the long term. That is that kind of what you synthesized it down to? Did I get that
Yeah.
right? Because both those
Yeah.
words were new to me. Okay. All right.
Yeah, right? It's like there's these new words that to me should be part of the vocabulary. It's like enthalpy. Everyone's heard of enthalpy, right? But like entropy is big. Like people hear of stress, but they don't know about adversity habits. And adversity habits is essentially positive stress, right? So positive stress is things that you do that you're like, this is like getting in cold water every day. I'm in cold water every single day. Is it hard?
You're one of those people?
Oh
Wow.
yeah, like, I do like all the primal habits. Like if people have been
Wow.
doing it for a while, and what happens is we get accustomed to doing hard things. Just like your speakers, in the beginning, they were a disorganized mess, or they were a perfectionist. And either way, right, they had to overcome certain patterns that were limiting the results that they wanted to get. And so they did the hard thing of getting on stage and practicing, hopefully practicing, and then getting on stage, and then right, and they got better at it. And what do most people say to that? They say, "Oh, I could never speak in front of people."
This you remind me of this story, and it's an um, episode I did kind of early on in the podcast, but it was of a Green Beret. His name is Nick Lavery, and he lost his legs in the line of duty, and so his options were, you know, take an honorable retirement or start speaking. Apparently, his commander said, "You're going to start speaking," and he's like, "Well, I'm a soldier, but I'm not going to speak. What am I going to speak about?" And he embraced that because the pain of not being able to serve was greater for him, and he made it happen. He's a world-class speaker now from
Mm,
somebody who really had no interest at
mm,
all. I like how you said, hopefully you practiced before you got on the stage versus after you and part of what now I thanks to Nick, what I train my clients are, you have your talk, your signature talk, and
mm.
sometimes that forms in different ways. But if you just get a bite of it down, each bite leads to the next bite leads to the next bite. Then you have the whole thing. You can do it in your sleep, which makes it a lot easier than to deliver it in emphases of focus related to your particular audience. And so I love the way that you said adversity habits, like
Mm.
embrace that that stress. I like the way you said positive stress. Maybe this is a thing. I hadn't really heard this terminology. I'm seeing it in the health world, how that could be really beneficial, right? If you're lifting weights, not always comfortable. Sometimes, going on a long walk isn't always comfortable, but the benefits far outweigh that, and you cannot get the gains without the stress. So yes, that's a physical universal rule.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that transcends all areas of our lives, right?
Yes.
Body, mind, spirit, success, all the things.
Yeah. I mean, you can even think of it in terms of financial, right? Like the reason I'm really wealthy in terms of my like overall net worth is because I was super disciplined about taking like earning profit, so focusing on profit margin, taking profit and investing it. So not spending it. Like my husband and
You
I,
weren't buying yachts and things.
no, but I was buying real estate. And like
Good.
I was strategically buying real estate ahead of the market,
Mm,
right? And it's like
smart.
I had this is so telling. So I was in a coaching group with Allie Brown back in the day. She was like she was really big in women's entrepreneurship 2010 to 2020. And I was in a group with her, and she had everyone take out their wallet. She was doing that, and it was all these women entrepreneurs. She had everyone take out their wallet, And she was like basically like who has the Gucci and who has whatever. Well, my 4 year old at the time, so this was 13 years ago because she's 17. She had recently given me a Decine wallet, and Decine is like a very and it's like a ski bum brand. It's like a surf bum brand. And we ski and we surf, right? And so like she'd given to me, it was special to me. So I had, my credit cards and whatever, a couple $100 bills and a Decine, a $40 canvas wallet, right? Like this is so like no Prada, no Gucci, none of that. And she looked at it and she like shook her head, like level up, sister. And I thought, like, we'll see at the end of the day who wins the game, right? And so it's like knowing it's not like we do without, but we just know our values. It's like, what exactly do we value? And what my husband and I value is we value being in amazing places together doing amazing things. And for us, we're very athletic, so we like to surf and ski and mountain bike. And so all the investments we made were very strategically made for, they were high risk at the time. Adversity is high risk, right? You're willing to take a risk other people won't take. You're willing to sit in cold water. You're willing to fast a little longer. You're willing to have, like last night, I know I'm bouncing all over, but willing to have hard conversations is an adversity habit. So last night I was sitting with a dying friend and her family and the friend
Mm.
group, and I realized like no one in the immediate circle had really done a like what is like what where do we want to die conversation. Like that hadn't happened yet. And so I looked at my best friend who was also in the room, not the one dying, and I was like, sister, do I need to have this conversation, or is anyone else capable of having this conversation with immediate family? And she just looks at me and she's like, and I just look at her and I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't want to step out of place here. Like, because I can step into responsibility very easily. And she's just like looking at me like deer in the headline. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I grab the husband of the dying woman and I ask him if I can have a minute with him outside and have the hard conversation about he needs to be the leader for his children and his dying wife in this moment. And it's a calling and it's a fulfillment of, so like these things come up in so many different ways that we have to do the hard thing, the hardest thing that we possibly can in the moment, whether it's an investment, a risk, a piece of property, whatever, Bitcoin or whatever, Tesla stock's going to go low. Like, is that a buying up? Whatever it is, we're willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do. That's assessed strategic risk that leads to a future that we want. And if we're willing to do that consistently, it does lead to a life beyond our wildest dreams. And then whatever we're speaking about on stage, we're speaking from our own personal experience instead of a bunch of freaking studies and data. And everyone is tired of the science, you guys.
Mhm. Ooh, Kate. Ah, okay. I love so much of this, and there's so many different directions I can go because I can relate on so many different in so many different levels. But we'll think about the speak packed audience on this. So let's just say you're a professional. You're maybe known in your industry, in your space, and you've had to speak in line of your job, and you realize, hey, I think I kind of like this. I think I'm kind of good at it. Uh, Miss Agent, Mr. Bureau owner, right? Get me some gigs. And they get all upset when at those people, right? When the gigs don't start rolling in because they're unwilling to do the messy, uncomfortable part of humbling yourself, maybe for some engagements that are unfunded, because it's just the nature of that particular engagement. But what they're short sighted because they're not seeing 50% of that audience as their decision makers for other possible opportunities.
Yeah.
Maybe it feels a little beneath them, which is uncomfortable, and they don't want that. I love so much of what you said. I love because I'm with you.
Mm.
So I do pretty well. I drive an 20-year-old car that I actually share with my husband. Yes, we can afford the greatest car, but we have a homestead. I work, my studio's here on the property. We don't, there's really no need to have a $60,000 car
Right.
in our yard. And but I do know that there's something pretty big that I want that might seem a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
So knowing that, there's a balance, right? We have a very humble home. We could have upgraded, multiple times already, but why? Just more expense, more stress, more stuff to take care of. So those are the offsets, right? Those are the choices. I would have to maybe work. I already work pretty hard, but I'd have to be working because I had to work.
Yeah.
And right now, I work because I honestly love my work.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, I am my husband since retired to work on the land, but all of
Nice.
that to say, the other day I was share a really funny story. Oh my gosh. I was embarrassed in the moment, but now I'm embarrassed that I was embarrassed in the moment. So we were in town, which we're in the country. So when we go to town, we try to get everything done while we're in town. And we run out of gas because we're just being silly, like we weren't watching. And so we're pushing our 20-year-old car and it's hot, and we're in Texas and we're sweating. It's hot. And then so we get to the thing and somehow we killed the battery. And so now we're in this
Ouch.
awkward position in the gas station, and I'm kinda known in the area, and so people are seeing me. I'm supposed to be the successful woman. I'm in this old kind of older car. It's a nice car, but it's an older car. And, and you were bumming jumps off of people, and the to get the gas, or like pulling the thing all the way across anyway, it was just like I was so embarrassed. I'm like, babe, I can't be seen like this.
Mhm.
And then later I'm like, what kind of attitude was it? Who
Mm.
I'm making my husband feel bad, which is bad. And it was all good, and we can go out and get some $65,000 car if we want to,
Yeah.
but we know what our value
Yeah.
is. And I want a ridiculously expensive, small camper van, right? To travel in, or B plus whatever, which it probably costs more than what we paid for this house
Yeah.
one day. If we're gonna do it when we could just pay it in cash, because otherwise I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we've kind of built up our brownie points because there's so much that we haven't bought. We have 13 grandchildren kind of spread throughout the world. I can work from anywhere. Like, it all makes a lot of great sense.
Yeah.
Don't love flying these days. And, it's just, we want to explore and, and experience. I'm with you on the exploration and experience. But it's so funny how people will say to you once you do reach a level of success, "Oh,
Mm.
you sure hit the lucky shots, right? You sure it must be nice." My son and his wife are, they've really designed their life in a way where they get to travel with their kids a lot, and they've kept themselves out of the grind,
Yeah.
right? They've made some really wise choices, and it's not just what you add, it's what you don't add as well. They don't have I don't think they own one television, by choice, and they get to go to all these fabulous places and do these things, and on a pretty modest income. And you'll see, as they post these pictures on social media, it must be nice." And they're like, "It is nice, but it didn't just happen. Like, it was a succession of choices."
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people say to that speaker who's up there getting the $20,000, $30,000 paychecks, it must be nice. You must have gotten somebody gave you a lucky break or something." Even Tony Robbins, it took him 12 years to even begin. 12 years of hitting it hard. He has no shortage of energy,
Yeah.
before he even began to feel the fruits of being Tony Robbins. Right, and so I think we do that so often,
Yeah.
and yet the universal truth is what you said: adversity habits and embracing that positive stress. Really love that you brought that in. Another thing you said, tell me if I'm saying this right. Assessed strategy, no, assessed strategic risk to achieve those goals that you actually want to achieve. So no luck involved, right? Conscious decisions.
I mean, I'm big on like think big, test small, fail fast, learn always, and how many fail fast we're willing to do, and how much we can afford to do. Everything points to long game. Everything. It's like
Okay,
what
can
you
say
want.
that again slower because I love that phrase. Fail fast,
Oh yeah, think big, test small, fail fast, learn always.
think big,
That's it. Design
test
thinking.
small, I think is really key. Test
Hmm.
small,
Hmm.
fail fast, live big. Right.
Learn
Le
always.
learn always.
And it's an iterative cycle. So we always think big. So we want to stay, again, the biggest picture, the longest view of our life. Like everyone here listening, it's like there's never been a time in history when you've been able to actualize your unique life, your unique purpose, your unique values. Like we are, I would say, exponentially advantaged that way right now. And technology will continue to facilitate that as long as it remains, somewhat in the free world. So,
Yep.
like, given that, it's like everything that Antoniette just shared with her value driven lifestyle and how purpose fits into the value driven lifestyle enables her to do that longer, to do that purpose longer. If she were to burn out, right, she would end the purpose.
Mm.
Now, the purpose is also generative in terms of revenue, which increases more opportunity. For some of you, purpose is more generative in terms of impact, like impact is more important than income. Doesn't matter how you're measuring, if it's 50-50, if it's 75-25, 20, like whatever it is for you, like that's the thing. And so the more we can do what we're here to do and be rewarded by the lifestyle, like we love what every day feels like, looks like, is like, who we're with, what we're doing, then the longer we're going to do it and the better we're going to get at those iterations. So think big encompasses all of that. Test small is like, what is the next thing I need to test to basically get data back from the world, like the marketplace, the audience, the clickbait or whatever it is that, like, trying to get like the HR person or whoever the decision maker is and whoever you're getting selected from in terms of going to the next phase of being selected as a speaker is, right? It's like, what is the next test that you're willing to run? So for us, me as a team this week, and I'll share it in a minute. It's like we have a sacred ambition scorecard where
Mm.
it's like it's an assessment and it leads to a sacred ambition conversation with me. It's a test. It's a test in marketing. Will I give a free talk on sacred ambition? Yeah. Probably after I talk to 20 people about, I'll have a good little data set of people that are already somewhat curated because they're already following me or on my email list or heard me on a podcast. And then I'll know from the data from those scorecards, right? Like, what are people strong in and what are they weak in? Or is it just all over the board and evenly split? And I'll be able to give a free talk on that, or a very humble unpaid speech, which might double as content.
Never unpaid, maybe unfunded, but it's always paid done right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And to me, that's where the think big is like, if you know your upsell in the strategy, the upsell from sacred ambition is people working in a mastermind with me on their multidimensional life strategy.
I love that, Kate. Something that you said is so true. I think in any industry, whether you're, I know your focus is helping wellness professionals become 6 and 7 figure earners, which it's a saturated industry, and the success is kind of hard to reach for a lot of people. But
Mhm.
there is a very strategic way to do that.
Yeah.
In the speaking industry, it's kind of like the pro ball, right? The NFL. Some really make it and make it big, and some strive to make it and don't make it. But I don't think that it's luck. There's always going to be a bit of luck, a bit of uh, opportunity boost. But I think largely we make our opportunities, and the way that we embrace the stress along the way is big. So here an example is, you get a rejection letter and you're like, oh, I knew I wasn't good enough, golly, darn it. Versus, good, one more rejection letter, because I know the odds, I know the numbers. For every rejection letter, I'm that much closer to the gig that I really want, right?
Yeah.
So that stress goes into our body in a way that propels us, or a way that kind of pulls the energy out of us. And I just love your approach on that. I'd love to know more about your, I think you called it Sacred Ambition Scorecard. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So when I look at, like, ambition comes up in a lot of ways. And because, I mean, I work with men, but a lot of my audience is women. And what I find is that ambition changes through stages of life, right? And sometimes predictably and sometimes sometimes not. Sometimes, like we were missing a piece earlier on that we get really excited about later on. So, for example, a lot of people's financial ambition is more in their 30s and 40s, but in like my pool, my fan base is like it can easily be like completely latent in their 30s and 40s and then pop up strong in their 60s, right? When they're actually ready to move on that. Same thing with we can have ambition in terms of relationship. Like we might want to be a leader. That's a relationship driven ambition. So where is that in the score, right? So when we look at like the scorecard, where do people feel strong? Like they are in touch with that ambition. That's a basic fulfillment for human beings. And where are they proficient, and where are they like, wow, I just don't have many points in this category. Maybe it's investment, maybe it's earning and investment are two really different things, right? And a lot of people don't understand this who don't have quite a bit of money, is they don't know. They're often thinking of like, I need to invest, but they don't actually have capital to invest, right? So then we have to focus on earning. And then once we, so if this bucket is really weak for people, then it's like, it's going to show up on that scorecard. And then we're going to know like it's weak and it's really actually limiting what they can do in their life. Maybe it's in body and health, right? So maybe it's just actually that they, like the people we were talking about earlier, that they have a hard time getting up in the morning and doing the thing. They feel every morning that like they're overwhelmed with what's just on the like get through the day list, right?
Mhm.
So at that point, they might have, quite a few health issues. A lot of people are carrying excess weight. A lot of people we work with in Club Thrive come in and they're, 20 pounds heavier than they want to be. They understand that that's accelerating their aging. So regardless of vanity, I mean, vanity can be a part of it, but often as people get older, they get clear with like, it's not about vanity, it's about my energy and it's about my pain and my joint health and other things. So the sacred ambition assessment is like, let's just like look like where's ambition showing up? Where's desire showing up? What buckets are you, have you dialed in, and what buckets are just like, you need some skills and you need to be around the right people. And then we have a one-on-one conversation about like really, and I look at a life purpose or dharma in terms of chapters. What does the next chapter of your life look like in terms of ambition? Because you may have a ton of ambition to work on your health goals, right? And like that really needs to be the focus. We call them body goals. Or you may have a ton of ambition to work on your earning potential or your investment potential. So it's just a way of us just getting like a really big snapshot and then having a deep dive conversation. And where my unique genius is like really helping other people figure out what theirs is, right? And then and then strategy, like I mentioned before, of like, okay, now we know what it is. Like, given who you are, what is the strategy? And that's always unique to the individual.
Okay, perfect segue into my next question for you, because you actually just touched on it. But any level of success that we want in our lives, whether it's relational, in family, in our professions, any level, right? There is obviously, we know there's no amount of money that can replace
Yeah.
a rich life when it comes to your health. Like if you don't have health and you have all the money, you have a pretty poor life. If you have a
Yeah.
lot of health and maybe not a lot of money, you have a pretty rich life, as in my book anyway.
Totally.
And
Totally.
certainly for speakers, like how many amazing voices, amazing solutions are not up there on stage or front and center because they're sitting in a doctor's office or so drugged up on these different, and I'm not saying don't take drugs. If you need them, take them, but just they're being held back because of a lack of vitality,
Yeah.
which is a lot of times optional. You had a genetic thing happen and you were able to find strategies, a way, around it, over it, under it, however you could, right? So you can keep going forward. So to that end, I know that there's a good number of Speak Packed audience members who are going to want to know, who is this Cate Stillman and how do I find her? So how do you like to be found?
Yeah, I mean, I think for today's conversation, probably the best way is to go to clubthrive.global, and you'll just kind of get sucked into something that's interesting and fascinating. And then you'll probably fill out a quiz or an assessment, whether it's Future You or Sacred Ambition or something else that's really appropriate to you. And then we'll end up in communication. So it's really as simple as go to clubthrive.global. And the reason my brand is that is like I have a club for people who want to thrive, and we're global. So it's pretty straightforward. Again,
Love it.
whether
Sign me up.
right, and it's so fun. And this is what I want to emphasize. And I feel like it came through, but maybe not to the degree that it could. And I think a lot of speakers have realized this is like hard things are so much more fun together. Like
Mm,
when you're speaking in front of an audience and there's a what in spiritual circles might be called a we space that's created, where there's a group consciousness that's created. There's something else that happens. Humans are amazing that way. I mean, as are packs of dogs. Like it's amazing when a group of mammals gets aligned and on target and interested in the same things together. And it's so much easier because you don't have to like justify to other people like why you're willing to do the hard thing in the short term that other people are like, oh, I could never do that, and then the conversation goes to lowest common denominator. When you're with the right people, the conversation goes to enthalpy, it up levels, and you start thinking about things that before you thought were too hard for you or impossible, and they become possible.
yeah, there's something to be said about choosing your circle. And sometimes it feels a bit cruel, when you've grown or evolved. Maybe everybody's evolving, but they're evolving in different directions.
Yeah.
And there's some goodbyes that you have to say to make room for some hellos. And I love the way that you said, the conversation descends to the lowest common denominator. Well, if you're in a room of excuse makers all the time, or that I can't, I should have, shitting all over each other, you should have, we should have, then that's, you just kind of get sucked into that cycle, and you don't even realize it because there's nobody else showing you differently. I know when I was a young single mama and um, struggling for every penny back in the day, I knew one thing. I did not want government housing because government housing was going to stick me in the middle of a bunch of people that weren't going to get me anywhere,
Yeah.
or get me somewhere I didn't want to go. Um, I wanted to see beyond that, even though yeah, I'd grown up in some pretty turbulent situations. I was in and out of foster homes. I was homeless pretty young, all the things.
Wow.
Um, but somehow I knew that wasn't for me. And I didn't want that for my child. So I found a really nice neighborhood and basically began knocking on doors to live in somebody's garage, or, in their little grandmother's house in the back, and wound up doing that in the very early. I was a mama pretty young in those early days. Got myself through college by flagging for construction companies during the summer, making enough money so that I could, go to school during the school year. But you find a way when you know. And somehow I knew I had to keep myself surrounded by
Yeah.
a certain level of successful people,
Yeah.
or else I could get spun up in that cycle where I wasn't going to get to those places I really did envision for myself. Couldn't really see it ever happening at that point, like how it was possible. I just knew I needed to be there, be in that place.
Yeah, I mean, that's Rich Dad Poor Dad in a nutshell. I mean, a lot of the research that's done on zip code, right? It's like you rise or fall to your zip code.
Ooh,
So,
I hadn't heard of that one.
yeah,
That's
no,
good.
like you lived it. Like what you just explained took researchers a long time to figure out. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, um, who's written, he has a whole empire based on Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's basically what Rich Dad Poor Dad is his dad was on the other side of the tracks. He was academic, like work harder, not smarter. And then the rich dad was his best friend's dad on the other side of the tracks. And it was all like who you know and what you're doing together. Then a huge body of research came out around zip code determines your net worth.
Wow.
So it's a determinant, it's a predictor, right? And that's yeah, it's
Mm.
it's absolutely remarkable. So like a lot of my investment strategy has been to predict the neighborhoods that were going to rise the fastest that I actually wanted to be in. So I just used myself as a okay,
Litmus
I know
test.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, right? N equals one. I'm like, I know this place isn't ready for me right now, but it has all the telltale signs, right? And I have like a list of factors of like it's got this, and this, which means it's going to take. I'm not a day trader. Like I'm a 5, 10, 20 year investor, right? Where I can just, yeah. And it's like, it's just work.
Slow and grow, slow and grow. Right?
and it's worked every time, right?
Oh,
And it's just like predicting those neighborhoods where it's like, yep, it's gonna change. It's enthalpy will happen here faster.
oh, love that. And I'm so looking up enthalpy. I'm gonna look that up, study it. So my word for this year was eudaimonia, um,
Mm.
which everybody look that up. Eudaimonia. It's a pretty cool, powerful word. But I believe in the power of having a word for that year and really focusing in. So maybe next year that's going to be my word. And so whatever.
Oh, I love that
Um,
eudaimonia. And I just want to speak a little bit to the, as understanding our next ambition, right? Whatever that is, the strategy towards it has to involve a people set. And what I've increasingly found is it's not that we leave other people behind, is we become a bigger advantage to the people that we're feeling like we're leaving behind. Like, for example, like
oh,
last night, I haven't spent a lot of time with these people. They're not really like my core people set at all. Uh, but at the right time, in the right moment, I was able to step in and level up the whole experience for everybody and be a gift into that community, because it's like we don't have to leave anyone. We can just
mhm.
instead say, hey, for this next phase, this is my priority. Given this priority, this is my people set, this is my strategy, and that's what I'm going to do. And by telling ourselves that, so we have a clear plan, and then everything else will just kind of fall into place. Force function is the concept in physics of like what's more important gets, it pushes out the things that are less important.
Oh,
Law of
good stuff.
nature.
Yes. Be the bigger advantage for the other people in your life. I
Yeah.
remember, my mom had gained some weight and we were very close. And I had gained some weight right along with her. Sometimes you have those empathy, you kind of have the empathy failure. I don't know how to explain that, but I remember it going through my mind. Oh, I can't lose weight because I'm going to make her feel bad. And I remember catching myself. What the heck? That's not healthy. Like that's not a good way to think. But what
Yeah.
you just said is so apropos because when I did get myself healthier and to a more thriving level, it I didn't mean to do it to inspire her. I just meant to do it because I need to be healthy
Yeah.
in my life. And everybody makes their own choices, but I did see her make well, I didn't preach nothing. You just do your thing, and others are inspired by that. So absolutely love that, Kate. I know you have a hard stop, and I wanted to hit our signature question because I think you have a really great challenge for our audience. So of course, the Speak Pact audience, we're all about a universal pact to make the greatest impact in this short, beautiful life that we have here together, right? And to that end, I think it's all about the voice, getting your voice out there, making a difference. Everybody has a little bit of different approach. What is one thing, Kate, that you would feel like if everybody would implement this tomorrow or even today, why put off to tomorrow what you can do today? Well, if you start implementing it consistently,
Mm.
that will absolutely make a difference in the way that you show up in this world for the people that are affected by it.
Yeah, I love this question. And it goes back to the first book I ever wrote called Body Thrive, where I codified the habits from yoga and Ayurveda, which is like, how do you optimize the self? Right. And to me, it was like very simple after working with people for 15 years. Is early to bed. It's like
Early to
screen
bed.
if you stay up late, you're blowing your wad for tomorrow. So whatever like focus, purpose, and we'll all do it and we'll all suffer the consequences, especially the more we go to bed early and wake up early. You're literally aligning to the sacred energy that happens before the rising sun.
Mm.
That organizes your entire physiology to your goal. So if you're working against that, you are literally paddling upstream every day.
I love that you said that. I think we convince ourselves, that, oh no, I'm just a night owl. I just get more creative and more, but our bodies are not designed, our bodies are physically designed to detox certain hours of the night, right? Our circadian rhythms are designed to rise with the sun and set with the sun. Right? Am I saying that? Set with the moon, whatever. But
Yeah,
we're so out of alignment with what our bodies were designed to do.
totally.
And you're speaking to me because I've slipped back into that, night owl mode, and I feel it in my anxiety levels, in
Mm.
my relationship with my husband, all the things. And when I've got the world by the tail, I'm
Yeah.
getting to bed, and not just getting to bed, watching my screen, answering email. I'm getting to bed and allowing myself to rest. I'm rising with the sun, putting my feet in the wet grass, getting that first light in my eyeballs, doing a little meditation prayer, getting in touch with the bigger picture, because we can get so aligned with the little details that aren't really make no flipping difference in the end,
Yeah.
right? And just we get so caught up in that. Okay, I know we've got to close, but funny little story. I was detouring yesterday, which I'm not going to do tonight. Last night I was detouring, and I was watching this cop show that was showing all of the people at fast food places that got arrested at fast food places, and people were just screaming mad that their french fries were cold, or whatever. Like, the one guy actually shot at the cashier person because she got his order wrong. Like,
Mm.
we get so caught up in the things that don't matter because we forget to align ourselves with how we were designed. Like
Yeah.
it or not, we were designed in a certain way. So I absolutely love what you left us with, because it's speaking right to me. And if you stay awake at night, I'm blowing my wad
Yeah.
for the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard stop
Good
on that.
stuff.
So
Good stuff.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any one of us can do that. Any one of us can do that, right? We
We're
can.
primates. Yeah. Like this is circadian. This is not personality driven. It's not body type driven. It's primate. It's primate driven. And anyone who wants more on primates, primal habits is my book on that, which it's a little outrageous, but it does get you in touch with the things that'll make the biggest difference the fastest, and all the habits are free.
So the book is actually titled Primal Habits by Cate Stillman. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, great, great. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that precious unrenewable resource, your time with us and your wisdom. I know you're not here giving us your hour. You're here giving us the decades that got you to
Mhm.
the wisdom that you shared it with us today. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much, Antonia, and really a pleasure to just be exposed to Speak Pact.
Yay, thank you. All right, and for the Speak Pact audience, ciao ciao for now.